He said the words every detective wants to hear and dreads in the same breath. I killed her. Then he leaned back in the metal chair, let the silence hang just long enough to make me think he'd lawyer up, and asked, casual as a weather report, "How's Buddy these days?" He looked straight at me when he said it, a half-smile I've seen on too many faces that thought they knew something I didn't. Buddy. My childhood dog. Buried under a maple tree 28 years ago. If you're watching this, tell me where you're tuning in from, and remember this. When a suspect knows something he shouldn't, you're not in an interview anymore. You're on a tightrope. 2 hours earlier I'd been on midnight patrol pretending my coffee was stronger than it was, breathing in the cruiser's stale heater air, when dispatch chirped about a 911 hang-up in a brick walk-up on Ferry Street. Apartment 3B. Third call in as many days from a building where nobody ever answered the door and everybody kept their blinds shut. On scene, hallway lights flickered like a cheap horror film, and somewhere a baby cried with that exhausted, hiccuping rhythm that says the parents stopped trying 20 minutes ago. Her door was ajar. One touch and it swung inward. The apartment smelled like bleach and oranges, like someone cleaned fast and thought citrus would cancel guilt. In the kitchen, a coil of extension cord lay next to a damp towel. Bedroom, sheets stripped, mattress bare, a rectangle of darker carpet where a rug used to be. On the wall, a framed photo still hung crooked, a woman in scrubs holding a paper cup of gas station coffee, smiling like she didn't yet know the world was a mess. Name tag in the picture. M. Jensen. I called it in and did the slow walk, sink trap, window locks, closet shelves. No body, no blood, no forced entry. But there was a feeling, the kind you can't write in a report, absence with intention. Back at the station, before we'd even typed up the preliminary, Desk Officer Ramos waved me over. Guy's asking for you by name. Says he wants to confess. He handed me a visitor form. The signature sprawled like a bored teenager's. Nathan Cole. Did I know him? I didn't. But the pen indentations on the paper told a story. Heavy pressure on the first name, lighter on the last, like he was trying one on for size. Interview room 2 was all fluorescent hum and bad paint. He'd already chosen the chair with his back to the camera, which people only do when they've watched enough true crime to think angles matter. Mid-30s, clean fingernails, thrift store jacket that didn't fit across the shoulders, like he was borrowing the shape of a smaller man. He didn't look like Ferry Street. He looked like anywhere. I'm Detective Mara Quinn, I said, dropping a legal pad onto the table like it meant I'd be taking notes I'd actually read later. He watched the pad, not me. You asked for me. I did, he said, tapping the tabletop twice like a drummer finding tempo. Mara with one R. Your mom liked simple names. Your dad wanted Marathon as a joke. He almost got away with it. Then the confession, I killed the nurse from 3B. If you want to know what a confession feels like, it's not fireworks. It's a quiet room getting smaller. It's a hum you didn't notice suddenly becoming the only noise in the world. You understand you have the right to remain silent, I said, giving him the Miranda with a steady cadence that lives in my molars. He waved, quick, flippant. My pen scratched, waiver signed, time noted. How did you kill Ms. Jensen? I asked. Why leap to how? You didn't even confirm the who, he said, delighted, like we were playing chess and I'd moved a pawn too early. Because you did that for me, I said. Details. His smile dimmed by 1 watt. Extension cord. Bathroom. Quick. Clean. You won't find much. I respect your work. Body. Not yet, he said, and the falsest sincerity stretched across his face. You'll get there. Ramos slid a manila envelope under the door, CSI's first look at 3B, a partial print on the inside knob that didn't match the victim, citrus oil residue on kitchen counters, faint drag marks on carpet barely visible under UV. I kept my face flat. He couldn't see me learning. Why me? I asked. Because you care, he said. Because you don't like bullies. Because you had a dog named Buddy who slept on your feet and you cried so hard at the vet that the receptionist turned the open sign to closed. You promised you'd never let anyone small and good suffer on your watch again. He leaned in. How's Buddy? I let 3 beats pass. That's all it takes to decide the rest of your month. Buried, I said. Under a maple. Your turn to answer. He exhaled like he'd been hoping I'd play along. I did it clean. You'll find the rug, eventually. Dumpster behind the old roller rink on Kingsley. I took the body in a contractor bag, but don't get excited. Double-bagged, truck bedliner, short ride. You drive. A borrowed relative. What matters is motive, right? You need the why to sleep at night. He laced his fingers, and for the first time I saw the tremor in his left ring finger. Not nerves. Pattern. She was stealing. Not money. Time. From a man who didn't have much. Name him. Not yet, he said, whistling a tune I knew and couldn't place. Later I'd realize it was the jingle from a dog food commercial we played in the background for Buddy when storms rolled in. I pushed water across the table. He didn't touch it. You asked for me. You know things about me you shouldn't. That makes this 2 investigations. The case you're handing me and the one you think you're running. Which one is the magic trick? He smiled with his teeth tucked away. What if they're the same trick? What if the rope you think you're using to tie me to a crime is the rope I'm using to pull you somewhere you don't want to go? I stood, stretched, flicked the light switch off and on, a childish move, but the flicker resets people. He didn't blink. You want me to chase your breadcrumb trail. Fine. But crumbs are messy. You leave DNA on crumbs. Or citrus oil, he said, eyes bright. Did you like the oranges? I did that for you. You always buy citrus cleaner. Target on Harlan. Aisle 12, second shelf. The one with the clementine on the label. You think orange smells like safety. I didn't look at the camera because I didn't want anyone to see my pupils widen. My citrus cleaner. My apartment. There are moments in the job when your badge feels like armor and others when it feels like a mirror. You've been to my place. Careful, he said softly. Don't give me more credit than I deserve. Then say the why, I said, and kept my voice level by splitting it in my head. Half for the suspect, half for the little girl who held Buddy's collar while the sky cracked open. He steepled his hands like a pastor about to pronounce something holy and wrong. Because I needed you to listen. Because I needed you to look at the right person this time. Because sometimes the confession is the only way to start the real story. There was a knock, 3 quick taps, the signal that CSU had something hot. I stepped to the door, cracked it. Ramos whispered, "Dumpster's clean. No rug. And your street cam picked up a van near your building last night." I closed the door, turned back to him. He was humming the jingle again, eyes closed, like he could feel my heartbeat in the floor. "You're going to ask me for a lawyer now," I said. He shook his head. "I'm going to ask you about the maple tree. Do you ever go back? Do you ever talk to him? Because I think you should." "Why?" "Because Buddy was a good dog," he said, and for the first time his voice bent. "And because sometimes the dead are not where we leave them." The room shrank. The hum got louder. And I realized his confession wasn't an ending. It was an invitation. We booked him on suspicion and parked him in Holding A under camera. He didn't ask for a lawyer, food, or a blanket. He asked if I had a shovel in my trunk. Ramos raised an eyebrow. "You want me to sit on him?" "Don't lean," I said. "He likes feeling you close." I pulled the case file for M. Jensen as if we hadn't just had it written on our bones. 31, night shift nurse, oncology wing. No priors, no protective orders. Landlord said rent on time, packages stolen twice this month, no pets, 2 plants, both alive. I called the hospital. The charge nurse sounded like she'd been holding her breath for days. "Maya swapped to nights to get more time with a patient," she said. "A Mr. Elkins, palliative care. No family. He declined after she took his case." Declined. The word people say when death arrives politely. "Any complaints?" I asked. "One anonymous, about meds logging. We checked. Clean. Clean like the smell in 3B. I signed out the cruiser and drove north, heater at full blast, radio low. Ferry Street bled into milk-gray suburbs where every boxwood has a HOA-approved haircut. My mother's house sat at the end of a cul-de-sac that smelled like cracked sprinklers and old chalk. The maple was taller than memory, arms thrown out like it had been trying to hold the whole neighborhood together. My mother kept a bench under it now, slatted wood with chipped green paint. There was a wind chime that rasped more than sang. Kneeling on winter-dead grass didn't feel like trespass. The ground had sunk a little over the years, a soft dish where we'd laid him down wrapped in his blanket. You expect graves to be dramatic, a mound, a stone. This one was a quiet pocket in the world. I pressed my palm to the earth the way you do when you're pretending you're checking temperature, not making contact. It was cold, obviously. But the dirt at the edge, east side, toward the fence, was looser, a different color, like someone had scooped and replaced. A line of scuffs led to the bench as if a small shovel had been rested there between breaths. "Mom," I called, hating the crack in it. She came out in her robe, and the coat she refuses to admit is falling apart. "Mara, what's wrong?" I pointed. She looked, and I saw the exact second her face folded. "Oh," she said. A small O like an apology. I thought maybe you had done it." She knelt beside me, and we were suddenly strangers at a crime scene that belonged to both of us. "Did you move him?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "I haven't touched that spot since—" She couldn't say the year. 2 nights ago, the wind chime kept sounding when there was no wind. I thought it was just my head. I locked the gate. She stopped. There was something wedged between the slats of the bench, taped with blue painter's tape like a handyman's mercy. I pulled it free. Buddy's old brass tag, polished clean. On the back, someone had etched a date with a crude hand. Yesterday. My phone vibrated. "Ramos, dumpster's a decoy. Found citrus wipes, but they're store fresh. Also, your building cam has the van at 2:13 a.m. Driver wore a hoodie, baseball cap. Plate doesn't read." I pocketed the tag and stood. "Lock the doors, Mom. Don't open for anyone. I'm putting a unit on you. You think whoever did this is watching me? I think he wants me to know he can be anywhere I am." I kissed her hair and breathed in the smell of dryer sheets and coffee and old novels. "I'm going to fix this." Back at the station, I pulled Nathan Cole's personal effects. Wallet with 3 credit cards in 3 different names, all expired. A key ring, 1 house key, 1 brass locker key stamped 218, 1 plastic gym fob for a place that closed last year. A movie stub from a theater in a different county, the kind that only shows classics on Sundays. I ran his prints. Nada in AFIS. That told me 2 things. He'd never been booked, or he'd been scrubbed by someone with access. The locker key sang to me. People who plan want staging areas. Kingsley storage. Ramos guessed when I flashed the key. "Or train station," I said. "Old Depot has coin lockers no one uses." Before I left, I checked on him. He was seated exactly where I'd left him, hands folded, eyes on the camera like it was a mirror. "Nice night for a drive," he said, as if I'd invited him. "You left something on a bench," I said. "I returned something," he said. "We can pretend that's the same." "You dug up my dog." "Don't be grotesque," he said, lip curling. "I don't disturb the dead unless they're useful. I needed you to understand reach. I needed you to go to the tree and remember the promise you made to a creature who trusted you with his whole heart. Say Maya Jensen's name when you say that." He paused like he was tasting it. "Maya." A beat. She deserved better than the story she got. "That's why we're here." "Who is we?" "You, me, and the clock," he said, glancing at the corner where a camera glows red. "Tick-tock. Locker 218, detective. You're going to need what's in it." He shouldn't have known I'd found the locker number. He shouldn't have known a lot of things. I pressed the intercom. "Ramos, cover him. Don't engage." The depot smelled like spilled coffee and old gum. Half the lockers were rusted from the inside, the way appliances die from their own lungs. Number 218 took the key like it had been expecting me. Inside, a stack of manila folders bound with twine and a cheap spiral notebook whose first page said, "You won't read this." I read it. There were dates and initials and times that lined up with hospital shift changes. Photocopies of med logs highlighted in yellow like a pastor marking sin. On the third divider, Elkins, 8 hours. And under it, a printout of a complaint filed and then withdrawn the same day, alleging irregularities in end-of-life care by M. Jensen, and signed. At the bottom of the locker, taped to the metal with packing tape, a flash drive in a Ziploc. The Ziploc was labeled in block letters, Witness. I took a quick photo before I unpeeled it, chain of custody later, but the moment now. Back at the lab, IT pulled video within minutes. The drive contained short, silent clips dated over 3 weeks. Frame, hospital hallway, camera angled at a supply closet door. People in scrubs coming and going. On 3 occasions, Maya entered with a cart and left without it. On 2 more, a man in a maintenance uniform entered and emerged with a cart but with different contents. On the last clip, 2:12 a.m., the maintenance man lifted his cap to wipe his forehead before stepping into frame. It was the confessing man's face with a mustache that looked like a stage costume. We printed the still. I took it to Holding A. He didn't look at it. He looked at me. You found the part where I look like a janitor. Why the costumes? Because uniforms are keys. Show the right key, doors open. Show the wrong one, alarms sing. You killed her because she was stealing meds? I asked. Or time? You kept saying time. He tilted his head. Close. She changed clocks. She shortened people's endings for their comfort, she said. 20 minutes here, an hour there. You can write all the pretty words you like on that. It's still theft. She took time from Elkins. He wanted to watch the first game of the season. She gave him Oblivion instead. You knew him. I know a lot of men who have no one, he said softly. The world looks away. I don't. Then why not turn her in? Why kill her? He frowned like I'd missed something obvious. Because some thefts are irreversible. What would a reprimand give him? The game back. He sat forward, voice dropping. Sometimes justice doesn't wear a badge. Sometimes it wears a contractor bag. I could feel the old argument rise, the one about vigilantism, about systems, about the cost of letting one person appoint themselves judge. I had given that speech to rookies, to victims, to myself in the mirror. He watched me swallow it and smiled. You're not going to put that speech on me. Save it for the camera. Ramos knocked once. Detective. CSU just called. They found a rug at the roller rink after all, wedged under the dumpster, cut to fit. And there's blood. Low volume, but it's there. I stood. He stayed. Bingo, he said. Now you get a warrant for the van you haven't found yet. We found your face. He shrugged. Faces are common. I was halfway to the door when he said, Did you dig? I didn't turn. No. You should, he said, voice small for the first time. You should check. Because Buddy's tag wasn't the only thing I moved. He let that hang like a chandelier rope burned halfway through. Sometimes the dead are where we leave them. Sometimes they're where we need them to be, so we remember why we started. I didn't give him the satisfaction of a flinch. Outside, I let myself breathe for 4 steps and then none at all. The locker had given me a pattern. The tree had given me a threat. The room had given me a man who believed punishment was a private language. I ordered the warrant, the canvas, the hospital subpoenas. I called my mother and told her I'd be by at dawn with a spade. If he touched my garden, she said, voice thin steel, he won't like what happens next. Get in line, I said, and for once the hum sounded like a countdown I could use. Dawn painted everything gray and brittle when I pulled into my mother's driveway with a spade rattling in the trunk. The maple stood quiet, no wind, no chime. My breath smoked. Mom came out before I knocked, holding 2 mugs, one black, one with milk, just how I used to drink it before coffee became survival instead of taste. You're going to dig, she said. Not a question. I have to know, I said. You won't like what you find, she said, setting the mugs on the bench like we were about to have a picnic instead of an exhumation. I pressed the spade into the east side where the soil was lighter. It cut too easily, the way dirt does when it's been disturbed recently. 6 inches down, the smell came, earthy but not clean. 10 inches, something wrapped in a strip of tarp, folded twice. My chest tried to close around itself. Mom stepped back, hand over her mouth. I pulled it free, set it on the grass, unrolled. Not Buddy. Not Bones. A bag. Contractor grade, thick plastic, sealed with duct tape. Inside, hospital scrubs, teal, size small, streaked with something faded brown that lab would confirm before my nose did. A badge still clipped to the neckline. M. Jensen. I stared until the letters blurred. Whoever buried it wanted me to find not remains, but proof. Mom's voice shook. He was here. He stood where you are. He dug with his hands. I reburied the space, filled it flat, tamped it down with a spade, because leaving it open felt like leaving Buddy exposed. Then I bagged the scrubs, sealed them, called CSU. Back at the station, Ramos looked like he hadn't blinked since last night. Van's gone. DMV gave us 10 Nathans with suspended licenses but none match. That storage locker paperwork? Rented under a dead man's name. 6 months ago. He's 2 steps ahead, I said. He plants things where we'll find them, gives us threads to pull. But the threads only tie back to him when he wants. We walked to Holding. He sat cross-legged on the chair now, barefoot, shoes neatly placed beside him like a child told to wait in the hall. He looked rested. Did you dig? I dropped the evidence bag on the table. The scrubs stared at him through plastic. He leaned forward, sniffed like he could smell the iron through the seal. Now you believe. I believe you're trying to choreograph my steps, I said. But choreography leaves footprints. He laughed, short, ugly. You always think in lines. Good cop, bad cop, cause, effect. But the world runs in circles. A woman shortens a man's life. A man shortens hers. A detective digs up an old grave. Round and round. Tell me how the scrubs got under that tree. I already did, he said softly. You just don't want to say it out loud. You want me to be the monster, but monsters don't bring you coffee milk like your mother did. Monsters don't hum lullabies your father used to whistle when he mowed the lawn. Monsters know the details because they were there. Because they listen. I sat, forced my pen to move on the pad so my hands didn't curl into fists. You were never a patient. Never in the system. How do you know the nurse? How do you know me? He rocked slightly, rhythm like a cradle. Everyone's in a system, detective. Some systems wear badges. Some wear stethoscopes. Some wear collars and tags. Yours wore all 3, in different lives. Names, I pressed. Who helped you? Who gave you access to security footage? Who scrubbed your prints? Do you remember the night the hospital lost power? He asked instead. Backup generators failed for 3 minutes. Elevators stopped. You were there, weren't you? Visiting a friend. You took the stairs. You heard someone crying in the stairwell. My throat tightened. That memory wasn't in any file. A woman, clutching a child, crying because she couldn't reach pediatrics on the 7th floor. I had carried the boy up 3 flights, my back burning. I had never told anyone but Mom. How do you? He smiled, lazy, satisfied. Because I was there too. Watching. Always watching. Ramos burst in, face pale. Detective Lab rushed the DNA on the scrubs. Blood's not Jensen's. Then whose? They cross-checked in Cody's. It's registered to a cold case. Missing kid from 20 years ago. Name, Brian Quinn. My ears roared. Brian. My brother. Vanished when I was 12. Walked home from soccer practice. Never arrived. File that never closed. Photo that never aged. I turned slowly. He was watching me with eyes like floodlights. Now you see the circle, he whispered. I slammed the table. Where is he? Where's Brian? Wrong tense, he said. Where was he? The room tilted, walls too close. Ramos grabbed my shoulder, grounding me. We need to step out. In the hall I couldn't breathe. Mom's voice from years ago filled my skull. Don't think about it, Mara. He's gone. You're all I have now. Detective, Ramos said carefully, we need to transfer this case. Conflict of interest. No, I said. My voice shook but held. He's playing me. He put those scrubs there to bleed the past into this case. He wants me unstable. Wants me chasing ghosts. But what if he's not lying? Ramos said. I stared at the one-way glass. Inside, Nathan, if that was his name, sat calmly, drawing circles on the tabletop with his fingertip, over and over. We'll test everything, I said. Scrubs, locker, video. We'll get independent confirmation. Until then, he stays right where he is. But when I pushed back into the room, the chair was empty. Shoes on the floor, handcuffs neatly folded on the table like a gift. The camera feed showed static for 12 minutes. Then nothing. And on the tabletop, written in condensation from his water cup, 5 words. Check the maple again, detective. The bench was still wet from last night's dew when I pulled up at Mom's again. She stood in the doorway with her arms folded like she'd been awake the whole time. The maple swayed faintly, not enough wind for it, not enough reason. I carried the spade out anyway, ground still soft where we'd dug. The hole I'd refilled wasn't just disturbed, it had been reopened, filled, tamped again. Someone had been here after me. I dropped to my knees, dirt under nails, pried the patch open. 6 inches down, not scrubs this time. A shoebox wrapped in butcher paper, twine tied with precise knots. I cut it open with my pocket knife. Inside, Polaroids. Dozens. They smelled of mildew and basement rot. The first was the hospital corridor, same as the drive footage. The second, my mother in her kitchen last week, pouring coffee into the mug with a blue chip. The third stopped my breath, me, asleep on my couch, mouth slightly open, TV light on my face. Mom whispered, Mara, you need to stop. No, I said. I need to finish. Halfway through the stack, Brian. Not 12-year-old Brian in the missing posters. Brian at 15, then 17, then maybe 20. Same freckles, longer jawline, eyes shadowed but alive. Each photo time-stamped, each in places I recognized. Gas station corner, public park, even one in front of this very maple tree. The last photo showed him beside a man in a janitor's uniform, Nathan's costume, with Brian's arms slung over his shoulder like family. Mom staggered back, sat hard on the bench. You told me he was gone, she whispered, voice breaking in a way I'd never heard. I bagged the photos, sealed them, called CSU. Full canvas of the area, now. Door to door. Then I pulled Mom inside, locked every bolt. You don't leave until I clear you. Back at the station, chaos. Everyone wanted to know how a suspect vanished from a locked room under camera. The techs swore the feed had been hijacked, not cut, looped with old footage. That meant help, inside or outside. The captain pulled me in. Quinn, you're off this. I laughed, sharp. You try pulling me off when my brother's face just turned up alive. That's exactly why you're off. You're compromised. I'm motivated, I snapped. There's a difference. Ramos intervened. Sir, let her run this one thread. Locker 218, the scrubs, the photos, it all runs through her. The captain swore, pinched the bridge of his nose. One thread. But you cross the line, Quinn, and I burn your badge myself. I drove to the roller rink. The rug CSU pulled was still fresh in my mind. Bloodstains confirmed human, partial female DNA. But on the rink's back wall, under layers of graffiti, someone had painted a circle in white chalk. Inside it, letters, MQ. My initials. Below it, a single phrase, round and round. I touched the chalk. Fresh. The dust came off on my fingers. Phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. His voice low, amused. How's the digging? You broke custody, I said, keeping my tone even. That alone will bury you. Bury, he said. Nice word choice. You saw Brian, didn't you? Where is he? Closer than you think. But not as you think. Put him on, I demanded. Can't, he said. He doesn't talk much these days. But he listens. You'd be surprised what he remembers about Buddy. My grip tightened on the wheel. If you hurt him... Don't insult me, he said. I've protected him better than you ever could. But protection has a cost. Balance has a cost. You of all people should respect that. What do you want? I asked. He chuckled. Want? You still think in transactions. This isn't about want. It's about story. Every good story needs a circle. Yours started under that tree. It will end there too. Then the line went dead. I threw the phone onto the passenger seat hard enough to crack the case. Ramos rang seconds later. We pulled a partial off the Scrubs duct tape. Not Nathan. Someone else. Guess who? Don't play games. Brian Quinn. Fresh hit. The words landed like gravel in my throat. That's impossible. Not if he's alive, Ramos said. I drove straight to records, pulled Brian's missing person file, every photo, every witness statement. Cross-referenced with the Polaroids from the shoebox. The ears matched, the scar on his left eyebrow matched. But the later photos showed him standing closer and closer to Nathan. In one, their shadows overlapped into one shape. Ramos came up behind me. If Brian's DNA's on that tape, he either wrapped those scrubs or Nathan wants us to think he did, I finished. He's weaving circles. Planting pieces. But why Brian? Why pull him into this after 20 years? I stared at the last Polaroid again. Brian smiling, but the eyes dead. Because he never left. Because Nathan didn't abduct him, he adopted him. Raised him into whatever this is. Ramos swore under his breath. Then he's not just a suspect. He's family. Not my family, I said. But my voice shook. We sent the photos to the lab for digital enhancement. The text confirmed locations, gas station, park, tree, all within a 10-mile radius of Ferry Street. He'd been here all along. Brian had lived in my city while I wore the badge and never knew. That night, I sat in my apartment with every lock engaged, every light on. On the coffee table, I spread the photos in order. Kid to teen to man. And always, somewhere in the frame, a glimpse of Nathan, reflected in a window, shadow against a wall, face under a cap. Like a ghost photographer staging his own hauntings. At 2:13 a.m., the same time the van appeared on my building's camera, my doorbell rang. 3 short presses. I drew my gun, aimed at the door. Identify yourself. Silence. Then a voice through the wood, soft, uncertain. Mara. I froze. The voice again. It's me. Brian. I checked the peephole. A man stood there, older than the brother I remembered, but the same eyes, the same scar. Hands raised, palms empty. He looked tired. He looked real. I don't believe you, I said. You don't have to, he whispered. Just open the door. He said you would. My finger tightened on the trigger. The maple tree's shadow through the window bent like it was listening. And for the first time since this started, I wondered if the circle was closing around me, not him. I didn't open the door. Training ran deeper than blood. I kept my stance, gun leveled, while every nerve screamed that my brother, my dead brother, was inches away. Step back, I ordered through the wood. Hands on your head. A pause. Then compliance, shadow shifting in the peephole, hands rising. He said you wouldn't believe, the voice said. He said you'd keep the gun between us. That's why I have to show you. Show me what? The circle, he whispered. It's almost complete. Before I could respond, the hallway light fizzed out. Darkness swallowed the view. A shuffle of feet, then silence. I flung the door open, swept the hall with my weapon, empty. No sign of him, no retreating footsteps. Just a folded piece of paper taped to my doorframe. On it, a single sentence in blocky handwriting. Buddy's grave is not the only one you forgot. I locked everything again, back against the door, paper trembling in my grip. My phone buzzed. Ramos. We've got movement, he said. Van turned up on a traffic cam, 10 minutes ago. Guess where? Where? Cemetery on Harlan. Of course. Circles, graves, ghosts. I grabbed my coat and went. The cemetery was slick with frost, rows of stones glowing under weak floodlights. Ramos and 2 uniforms met me at the gate. Van's parked by the old chapel, he said. No driver, doors unlocked, rear beds lined with tarp, fresh dirt on the wheels. We split, units circling wide, me straight toward the chapel. The wooden door creaked when I pushed it. Inside, pews stacked against walls, air thick with mildew and candle wax. At the altar, a lantern burned. On it sat another shoebox. I opened it with gloved hands. Inside, a cassette tape and another Polaroid. This one of me, tonight, gun aimed at my own front door. The angle was impossible, taken from inside my apartment, behind me. My stomach turned to ice. I fed the cassette into an old player CSU hauled in. Nathan's voice spilled out, calm as a bedtime story. Detective Quinn, if you're hearing this, you've opened the box. That means you're ready for the end. Every circle needs a center. Yours has always been Brian. He was never lost. He was chosen. You grieved a ghost while I built a man. Now he has to decide which blood he belongs to. Yours or mine. The tape hissed, then cut off. Ramos cursed under his breath. This is a trap. I stared at the Polaroid again. My apartment. My couch. My back. He was in my home. No, I said. It's already sprung. We secured the van, dusted for prints, nothing but smudges. The tarp smelled of bleach again, citrus sharp, almost mocking. And on the chapel floor, carved into the wood with a knife, was a crude map. The maple tree drawn as a circle, arrows leading outward to the cemetery, the rink, the depot. And at the center, initials, MQ. We regrouped at the station. The captain was done with patience. Quinn, this is over. He's targeting you personally. I'm assigning federal liaison tomorrow. Tomorrow is too late, I said. He's closing the circle tonight. You're compromised. I'm the bait, I shot back. He wants me. He's left no doubt. Use me. Silence. Then Ramos, she's right. We control it, or we keep chasing his breadcrumbs until someone else dies. The captain finally nodded. One chance. Controlled environment, full surveillance, TAC team in place. You slip once, Quinn, you're done. We set the stage at the maple. Cameras hidden in the branches, microphones under the bench. I sat alone on the slats, hands empty, eyes on the dark street. Midnight came, then half past. Nothing. Then, footsteps. A figure emerged, slow, deliberate. Hood pushed back. Brian. Older, worn, but Brian. He stopped at the edge of the lamplight. Mara, he said softly. My throat clenched. It's really you. It's me, he said. But not who you remember. He raised me, taught me, showed me the world doesn't forgive weakness. Nathan. He nodded once. He said you'd come armed. That you'd see me as bait, not brother. Prove him wrong. I don't need to prove anything, I said. I need to bring you home. He stepped closer. TAC whispered in my earpiece. Steady. Target acquired. Await signal. Brian's eyes glistened. Home. After 20 years. Home is where you're wanted. He wanted me. He gave me purpose. I shook my head. He made you his reflection. That's not purpose. That's theft. From the shadows, another voice. Or salvation. Nathan stepped out, casual as if strolling. She'll never understand. She still thinks in straight lines. TAC crackled. 2 targets. Confirm green. Hold, I whispered. Nathan spread his hands. See. Even now she hesitates. Because circles are stronger than lines. And you, detective, are standing in the middle. Brian, I said, locking eyes with him. You don't owe him. He stole you. He used you. He saved me, Brian whispered. No, I said. He buried you under my grief. He made me live like you were dead. He doesn't give life, Brian. He takes it. Nathan's smile thinned. Choose, boy. Blood of birth or blood of bond. Which circle completes tonight? Brian looked between us, chest heaving. TAC, we need to go. I saw it then, the tremor in his hands, the same one Nathan had. Not loyalty. Nerves. Conflict. Brian, I said, soft as I could. Buddy. Remember him? He used to crawl under your blanket during storms. You cried when he died. That was real. That was family. Not this. His lips parted. A sound caught in his throat. Then he moved, toward me. Tack burst from the dark, floodlights blazing, shouts loud. Nathan lunged, fast, but Brian grabbed his arm, yanked him off balance. Officers swarmed. In the chaos, Nathan's eyes locked on mine, burning. Circles don't end, he hissed as cuffs closed. They dragged him back, spitting promises. Brian collapsed to his knees, sobbing like a child. I knelt, pulled him close, felt bones too sharp under his jacket. It's over, I said. But Nathan's words echoed, sticky as blood. Circles don't end. Back at the station, charges stacked like bricks. Murder, abduction, tampering, escape. Nathan smiled through every count. Brian sat in medical, silent, shaking. DNA confirmed, he was mine. At dawn, I drove back to the Maple. The bench sat quiet, the chime still. I pressed my hand to the soil again. Cold, solid, unmoved. Buddy where I left him. Yet as I stood, I saw something new carved faint into the bark. A circle. And inside it, 3 letters, MQB. My initials. And Brian's. I touched the mark. The wood was fresh. Nathan was in custody. But his circle had already spread. And I knew, as sure as the badge on my chest, that the story wasn't finished. Just paused. Circles don't end. They widen.